What is up, guys? How we doing? How we doing? We got a new subscriber. Thank you for your support. I appreciate you. Welcome to the team. Today we're going to talk about comedy. I've actually been working on this video for the last couple days because I want to do it justice. This is something that I hope doesn't end up being too long, but something that I've been wanting to discuss for a while. Growing up, I was a huge stand-up comedy fan, and there's this big saying now, especially by stand-up comedians, that comedy is dead, and that cancel culture is ruining comedy and everything. And today, I just kind of wanted to take a look at if that's true. So to give you an idea of the way that I am when it comes to comedy, I'm one of those people that believe when it comes to jokes, nothing's off limits. That if you're going to make an offensive joke, you better make it clever and you better make it funny. But when it comes to humor, nothing's off limits. However, if you do a bad job at trying to make these offensive jokes, that's when they come off distasteful. That's when they come off shitty. The problem is people have trouble separating reality from fiction. Whenever you make a joke, right? Whenever you make an offensive joke anyway, even if it's well delivered, even if it's a good joke, some people just have a problem with separating reality from fiction. I think Daniel Tosh did a perfect job summing it up. That, jokes are fiction, reality is reality. And when you tell a joke, that doesn't mean that you necessarily believe in that thing. That it's not fair to say that you made that joke, you're racist. That it's not fair to do that. Because once you start saying that this joke is off limits, that crossing this line isn't allowed, then you can just keep pushing that line further and further. So, yes, I think anything goes, but also if you're going to tiptoe that line, you better do a good job. And then he went on to make one of the most offensive jokes ever that had 3 different offensive things in it. That was fucking hilarious because of the setup and the delivery. And if you're unable to tell the difference between a joke and reality, that's a you problem. However, the problem is with modern comics, they're not doing a good job telling these jokes. So, they're more like statements. They're telling jokes that we've heard 50,000 times over, and you can see the joke coming from a mile away, and then it doesn't land, and then they blame cancel culture for it. And the lazier their joke is, and the more that it's just like a general statement or just giving your political agenda, the more you're blurring that line between reality and fiction, so people are getting more offended. Comedians like Daniel Tosh, Anthony Jeselnik, Jimmy Carr, Bill Burr, people like that. Oh, Bo Burnham, a name I forgot to mention. He deserves praise. Dude's a badass. John Mulaney, he's another one worth mentioning. Nick Kroll, Ricky Gervais, that push the boundaries of comedy, right? That make offensive jokes but are good at it. Like Anthony Jeselnik is one of my favorite comedians of all time. That's his thing, is making the most offensive joke ever. And is he canceled? No, he has a great career. Is Jimmy Carr canceled? No, he has a great career. As a matter of fact, Anthony Jeselnik did a bit on cancel culture, and he said that the number one thing he gets asked is, Anthony, are you worried about cancel culture? And I don't remember exactly what the joke was, but he ended up mentioning Joe Rogan and said, go watch the Joe Rogan podcast or something like that, because Joe Rogan's always complaining about cancel culture. And then Joe Rogan responded with, he's just jealous of my success. No, dude, you're not. What? How are you going to sit here and say that a comedian who's on stage actually telling jokes and being successful at pushing the boundaries is jealous of your success when your success is as a podcaster, not a comedian? Like, you're over here on your podcast every day complaining about cancel culture, ruining things. You can't tell a joke anymore while Anthony Jeselnik is over here being as offensive as possible, and it works. He's not jealous of your success. You're jealous that you're not as good of a comedian as he is. I mean, hell, he even offended you, Joe. So, I guess you're part of the problem. And I think it's interesting if you look at these comedians and then you put them in the same room as comedians like Andrew Schultz, Brendan Schwab, Amy Schumer, Matt Rife, Bert, Joe Rogan, and people like that. Now, comedy is subjective. All these people are selling out places. Or David Lucas. That dude literally focuses on being as offensive as possible, like Anthony Jeselnik, but he's just horrible at it. But one's due to material and one's due to vibe, if that makes any sense. But I want to point out an observation, all right? The comedians that seem to be saying that cancel culture is ruining comedy are also the comedians that seem to not have good material. And that just started off as an opinion for me. That just started off as it kind of seems like this is just a lazy, I don't have what it takes to make it. Because how is Anthony Jeselnik over here saying the most offensive shit, yet has a career, and cancel culture isn't affecting him, yet Joe Rogan's constantly complaining about cancel culture ruining everything, and then his last stand-up special was let's be as loud as fucking possible. How is it that like people like Bert can just get on, or Ahmed can just get on stage, make a joke that we've heard 30,000 times over? Oh, Middle Eastern in here? Terrorist organization. And then some dipshit called the cops on him, and then this motherfucker goes on to pat himself on the back and say, it only takes one. It only takes one to go against cancel culture. Like, dude, the crowd member was an asshole for calling the cops, but you told a joke that has been told 30,000 times, and you're over here acting like you're pushing the boundaries while other comedians are doing way more. I think cancel culture is a cop-out. That's what I think it is. Because comedians like Bill Burr, Daniel Tosh, these comedians that are good at being offensive, that are good at telling offensive jokes, with their punchlines, with their setup, with their wit, their creativity. Hell, Jimmy Carr, it's literally a thing for him to roast the audience. An audience will intentionally heckle him, and it'll all be in good fun, and he'll just clap back being an asshole. And then you got the newer wave that's like Andrew Schultz, and Brendan Schwab. Don't think I forgot where you got your start, by the way. Guy Code, I remember you on Guy Code, even a couple episodes of Girl Code. I'm showing my age a little bit there, but you weren't funny then. You sure as shit aren't funny now. Now, humor is subjective, right? I'm not trying to say that I have the overall be-all opinion on what's funny. I'm just trying to talk about offensive jokes here. And the same people that seem to always talk about cancel culture are the same ones that just seem to be using it as a cop-out because they are unable to do what people like Anthony Jeselnik are doing, or Jimmy Carr. They are unable to set up and cleverly write an offensive joke, so they just blame cancel culture. The fact is it's a new world. People didn't lose their humor bone. Are more people offensive or get offended? Yes, but I think you just hear about it more because of social media. But if you still tell a good, offensive, clever joke, people definitely do still laugh at it. It's just a cop-out to use because you don't have the wit to come up with the material. So you go out on stage and go, hey, fuck cancel culture. Women belong in the kitchen, am I right? You're just not allowed to say that anymore, huh? That's funny. Yet black people can't swim, am I right? Middle East, anybody from the Middle East? Terrorist. Get it. Cancel culture can't touch me. Like, dude, we expect more. We've heard these jokes 1,000 times over. If you're gonna tell an offensive joke, change it. Set it up. make that joke, but do it in a different way. Set it up in a way that we don't know what's coming, and then pull the rug out from underneath us. That's how you're supposed to do it. Not just go up stage and go, oh, Middle Eastern terrorist. Like, are you fucking 12? You get paid millions, dude. And you're making a joke that literally anybody else could make. You're making a joke that people see coming, that has been told 1,000 times over. And then when it doesn't land, you blame cancel culture, while at the same time, Jimmy Carr is out here saying more offensive shit, and he's not getting canceled. You're like the goddamn trolls in my comment section repeatedly calling me moist critical. Just the lowest hanging fruit. All thinking you're wittier than the next. You can't come up with an actual clever joke. Now dislike this video, Nicholas. And it's insulting to blame the audience, honestly. It's not that people are offended by the joke you made. It's that people are offended at your lack of creativity and then the fact that you blame the audience for it. Like, it literally happens. There's videos out there of, oh, yeah, Middle Eastern terrorists, right? Like, that's the joke. There's no setup. There's no punchline. That's the joke. And then the audience doesn't laugh. And then the dude gets mad and is like, you can laugh at that. You don't gotta get offended. They're not offended. They've heard the joke before. It wasn't even a joke. It was just a statement at this point. Like, there's no setup, no punchline. Just a joke we've heard 30,000 times. And then you blame the audience. That's why people get offended. Like, I just went down this interesting rabbit hole. Like, there's an interview between Bert and Jimmy Carr. Look at the difference between the comedians in that. Just look at it. Like, they're roasting each other and all in good fun, but Bert cannot keep up. And it's just kind of the same with the other comedians I talked about. Like, you put them next to each other and you can tell which one cares more about having better material and which one more just relies on being animated. And just, I'm going to say this because F cancel culture. The good comedians aren't even bringing cancel culture up unless it's brought up to them. And then they're like, fuck cancel culture, and then go on to tell a cleverly offensive joke while Joe Rogan's whining about not being able to make those same jokes. The same people that seem to say that they can't say these offensive jokes due to cancel culture are the same ones that just seem to be bad at doing offensive jokes. Cancel culture, if anything, is the reason why these guys' careers exist. Because they just get on stage, they just say a political agenda, they just say a joke we've heard 40,000 times over. No unique build-up, no unique writing, no unique punchline, and then hey, Middle Easterns in here, terrorists. Woman equals kitchen. Black people equals insert stereotypical joke here. Like, it's just, there's nothing to it. It's not that the joke's offensive, it's your lack of creativity is offensive. You got people out here like Anthony Jeselnik pushing the fucking boundary. Daniel Tosh over here, making some of the most offensive jokes possible at his stand-up. And they're successful. And they have careers. Not Daniel Tosh, he's getting old. He just has a podcast now. But my point is, if cancel culture worked, there wouldn't be these comedians out there that are so successful at being offensive. While you had people like Joe Rogan, Bert, fucking Anthony Schultz, Andrew Schultz, I can't remember which one, Brandon Schwab, Matt Fife, complaining about, cancel culture being the problem. But what bugs me the most about it is these same comedians that complain about that, it's because of cancel culture that, if you look deeply, is the reason why they have a career. They get on stage, they tell a shitty offensive joke, the crowd gets offended, somebody heckles them, and they're like, oh, thank God, because they're fucking bombing. And then they destroy the heckler. And then that's the post it to Twitter moment of your hour special. If anything, cancel culture is literally the reason you have careers. It's the reason you're trending on Twitter for making a joke that's been told 30,000 times. if you'll notice, the good comedians that are good at being offensive aren't on Twitter because people are actually watching their shit, not just 30-second snippets of your hour-long show because the only thing worth watching was you arguing with somebody from the crowd because the crowd didn't like your jokes because you just go up there and basically vomit out your political agenda. Like, I appreciate people like Bill Burr who shit on both sides and push the boundaries of comedy and bring your attention to things in a comedic way that both sides can laugh at. There's a difference between that and just going on stage and giving your political agenda and just basically making a statement. That's why it's becoming harder for people to laugh at the jokes, because the blur between reality and fiction is becoming too close because you're not making an actual fucking joke. You're just looking for that Twitter moment. That's what modern comedy is. Looking for a goddamn Twitter moment and then retiring after a few years of virality on Twitter and stealing jokes, and then you make a fucking podcast and complain about cancel culture while the vets that have been doing this shit for 20 years are still out there going strong. Like, don't get me wrong, Bill Burr has complained about cancel culture quite a bit, but he says a clever joke that might offend somebody and then he doubles down. He doesn't use it as a cop-out to not tell offensive jokes anymore. He'll literally press on. And that's admirable because these comedians, that's who they are, And these new modern comics are basically, like, fake. Humor is subjective. So I'm not trying to say that the people I'm mentioning are bad comedians. What they do works for their audience. What I'm saying is, when it comes to the offensive jokes, their material for it seems to be bad. If you find enjoyment out of their shit, that's great. I just hate that they're constantly blaming cancel culture as to why their jokes don't land, when if Jimmy Carr and Joe Rogan can tell the same joke, one of them is just way better at setting it up and delivering it, and one of them isn't. So the one that isn't, it doesn't land, so therefore it's the audience's problem. They just don't get it. Regular humans don't get comedy. Fucking find how many comedians have said that. That just regular people just don't get it. No, dude, you're shit at writing a cleverly offensive joke. Cancel culture's the problem. That's why you're cozy on your podcast. Yet, these guys that have been doing this shit for years, pushing the boundaries, Bill Burr, Anthony Jeselnik, Jimmy Carr, they're still out there. So, no, I don't think comedy is dead. I don't think cancel culture is the problem. If anything, it's benefiting modern comics' careers because you're just looking for a moment of virality on Twitter. But if this is the direction we're going, if when people like Anthony, Jimmy Carr, and Bill Burr retire because they are getting old, and the new wave, Andrew Schultz, Brendan Schwab, that's what the comedy's going to be, is you just can't say this anymore. Am I right? Oh man. Fuck cancel culture. This is, I'm saying something edgy right now. Here's my political agenda. Oh, thank God, a heckler. This will be great for Twitter. Like Matt Fife, you hear his name everywhere. Why? Because he's trying to get a viral moment on Twitter. Every comedian I have named in this video, you can find on YouTube moments of them, having problems with a heckler. But the newer ones, there's more moments because they're specifically looking for those moments. Like, they know not only the heckler, but Matt Fife, those people know that this is the moment for Twitter. This is the moment that will be the highlight of an hour special. And then they turn around and say that they're pushing the boundaries. That's why they're all over Twitter, is because they're pushing the boundaries. No, you're not, dude. if that's the direction we're going in with modern comedy, then yes, comedy is going to die. And you don't get to blame cancel culture for it. You get to blame yourselves. Comedy is not dead. You are just not funny. Now, when it comes to movies and TV shows and whatnot, yeah, comedy is starting to get scarce. And that is, I believe, due to cancel culture, because movies are scared of writing offensive jokes because they're worth so much money that if the jokes don't land and bomb, then damn, you lose out on money. So that's why I think you're seeing more funny TV shows than movies, because with TV shows that go straight to streaming, they get more money back automatically, so they can be a little bit edgier with their writing, and if it doesn't land, it's not as big of a loss, versus if you try to make a movie all about offensive jokes and it bombs, that's a way bigger financial hit. So I think that's why you're seeing more comedic shows. Like everything by Danny McBride is great. The Studio is great. Peacemaker is great. There's some great comedy shows out there. But when it comes to movies, it just ain't happening because they are too scared. But do you blame cancel culture for that? Or do you blame yourself for being too scared to try? I think you blame yourself. I think you blame the big studio execs for being too scared to find writers that are good enough to write cleverly written offensive jokes. People are always going to get offended by jokes. Always. Always have, always will. You just hear about it more because of social media. That's just the truth. But blaming cancel culture is a cop-out for you being a shitty comedian. Do not blame cancel culture when you're up there making shitty jokes to begin with. If you were that scared of it, you wouldn't be doing that. Do not blame cancel culture when somebody out there is making the same joke but in a better delivered manner, in a better setup, in a better way. You go up there, you say offensive joke, no punchline, no build-up. You know exactly what's coming. That's why the joke doesn't land. Not because people are offended, but because it's just you see the joke coming from a mile away. We've heard the joke 10,000 times. You've done nothing to deviate yourself or make yourself unique and tell that joke. Like, you could make a joke about a woman in a kitchen and still make it funny, even though that joke's been told 30,000 times. It's the way you write it, set it up, and deliver it. And instead, you just get on and go, women in the kitchen, am I right? You can't say that anymore. That's not fucking funny. That's not funny. You're not edgy. You're not pushing boundaries. The other comedians are. And I'm sure you'll take all the fucking credit. But if that's the direction that we're going in, yes, comedy's going to die. Because you're all about Twitter likes and complaining about having lazy material. You grab the lowest hanging fruit. And that's what you do. And then you make a podcast because your comedy career was unsuccessful. So now you have a podcast. And Joe Rogan is a hell of a podcaster. He's great. His podcast is great. There's a reason why it's number one. But there's where your success is being a podcaster, at being an entertainer, not necessarily being a comedian. Like, I don't know a whole lot of people that actually think Joe Rogan is super funny, yet he's the one over here, oh, cancel culture is the reason why you can't tell jokes. Anthony Jeselnik says an offensive joke with Joe Rogan in it. Oh, he's just jealous. No, he is over here proving you wrong, dude. Proving you wrong. So stop. Stop blaming us for your shitty material. All right? Like, nothing sums up my point more perfect than the Ahmed situation. He made a shitty joke. The joke wasn't shitty because of the subject matter. The joke was shitty because of the setup. Then someone calls the cops on him, and then he says he's pushing the boundaries of comedy and it only takes one, while other people are out here saying the same joke in a way more clever way. It's just a cop-out. You just care about Twitter likes, dude. Comedians are killing comedy. Modern comics are killing comedy. And a lot of successful comedians would agree with that statement. Stand-up comedy is actually a really important thing. And I do hope we can continue to live in a world where we do get good, clever comedians. But instead, it's how can we trend on Twitter? How can we say the same joke that's been told 30,000 times, not have to be creative at all, and somehow get clicks off that? Like, it's, how can we piss off the crowd so we have a moment of virality? Like, how can we get on stage, deliver this joke so shittily that it's basically just a statement, and have a moment of virality on the internet? I don't know, man, but you don't get to blame cancel culture while comedians are out there doing the very opposite of what you're saying isn't allowed. Anyway, this was just an interesting rabbit hole I thought I would share you guys that I went down with the last couple days. Like, comedy is subjective. I'm not trying to say that my opinion is the opinion. You know, if you find these other comedians funny, that there's nothing wrong with that, and that's the beauty of it. I just hate that they're blaming cancel culture for as to why they can't make certain jokes, when the reality is the jokes that they tell aren't even jokes. They're jokes that we've heard 1,000 times over, and instead of actually trying to write it in a way that we haven't heard before and make it creative and funny, they just get up there and say, hey, you're not allowed to say this, I'm going to say it. That's the joke. And then it falls on deaf ears, then they blame the audience as if we're fucking dumb. And no, dude, you don't get to do that when there's comedians out there right now telling the same jokes but in a more clever way. So sit there on your podcast and bitch about how comedians that are more successful than you are jealous of your success as a podcaster, Joe. Look at your last stand-up. Look at the reviews on that. And let's compare you to Anthony. At the end of the day, I have all the respect in the world for comedians. Comedy is hard. I'm too scared to even try to be funny on this channel because of the risk of bombing. So, comedians getting on stage and trying, I applaud that. I admire that and I applaud it. I just hate the blame game. I hate the blaming society for why you can't make a certain joke as a comedian is over here successfully making that joke. It's not the joke, it's your material. It's that you're telling, it's that we've heard these jokes already. If you're going to tell them again, tell them in a better way. There are comedians out there that are focused on being as offensive and pushing the boundaries as possible and are successful at it. And are their careers canceled? No. But the ones that can't cleverly write these jokes just kind of gave up and then went and made a podcast. And so, no, I don't think comedy is dead, and I don't think cancel culture is the problem. I think modern comics are the problem. Anyways, I love you guys. Thank you for watching.